Let's say you have a news organization, and that news organization is basically a right-wing extremist conspiracy theory news organization. Then you imagine that now and then they might put out news articles that are, frankly, just conspiracy theories. Here's one of them: how allegedly the entire fire that struck Hawaii was actually a conspiracy theory. And I want to specifically respond to each one of the claims made in the video. Is the current Maui police chief the same chief from the Mandalay Bay shooting in 2017? Yes. Jean Peltier was, in fact, the incident commander covering the strip of the Las Vegas during the incident. What is the relevance? None. This is purely speculation and presupposing there to be a conspiracy by proxy. Is it true that the very wealthy didn't have their homes destroyed in the Maui fire? True, but those homes were on a different island, not the one that had the fire. 3 of the fires are near the center of the island, while the 4th is along the western coastline of Maui. The homes of the rich, most notably Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, and former President Barack Obama, are on Oahu, a different island in Hawaii. Of course, they weren't affected because they're not where the fires are. That's like saying your house didn't burn down from a fire in another city. The video claims there have been no interviews with grieving parents, indicating, I guess, I'm not sure what. Well, that's false. NPR did interview a parent who lost a child. It's actually right there on the first page of a Google search. Claim: the alert system was turned off so that people wouldn't be alerted to the fires. Well, there is no evidence that the warning system was intentionally turned off or wasn't activated. The sirens were installed to warn of tsunami activity and thus were placed along the shoreline, not further inland where the fire was. Maui Emergency Management Agency Administrator Herman Andea said that if he had used the tsunami sirens, which is what the sirens were designed for, people would have fled inland towards the fires, the opposite of what you would have actually wanted. A major criticism of the alert system has been its patchwork construction, not centralized into a unified system. This created flaws along with increasing problems. Now, the homes in the areas are increasingly disconnecting landline telephones, and fewer families have access to broadcast television and radio. Emergency managers have increasingly focused on wireless emergency notifications to instantly reach large numbers of people. But that modern system has its own limitations, relying on the resilience of cell networks and proficiency of emergency crews across a patchwork of local agencies. The video claims that the water was turned off during the fires. Well, this is a half-truth. Extra water was denied to those fighting the fires. The water was eventually supplied to fight those fires. It did eventually come. The real mystery is the statement by the Hawaii Governor Josh Green over the dispute on the water being used to fight the fires. He said, and I quote, "It's important that we're honest about this. People have been fighting against the release of the water to fight fires. I'll leave that to you to explore." Now, this is a very strange thing to say, which would seem to indicate that there are forces somewhere that didn't want this water to be used to fight fires. If this really was some kind of gigantic conspiracy, he would already be dead for having said that. Instead, it should be noted that the initial water system was actually severely damaged by the fire itself, and this extra water, which would refuse to have been released by the management system itself, has still to this day never given an actual explanation as to why. The most likely cause that a rational person would look at is that it was probably corruption, because the largest customer or the largest user of this water was a company that does most of the farming area, and most likely would have demanded that that water go to their farms or to perhaps protect their farms in this situation. That is not a conspiracy, that's called corruption. It was claimed that police tried to prevent anyone from leaving the fire-stricken area. Well, that's false. There were police barricades around fallen power lines, which would kill you if you ran over them, according to a police spokeswoman. It should also be noted that Maui County is suing HECO for allegedly causing the fires by not shutting off the power ahead of time due to high winds and dry brush. No, they weren't trying to prevent people from leaving. They were trying to keep people away from fallen power lines, which ended up blocking entire roads. That's entirely different than trying to force people to stay in a fire, which these conspiracy people seem to think it was. It is alleged that the Hawaii governor announced a proclamation about housing on July 17th, 3 weeks before the fire. True, but there's no indication that this has any connection to the fire whatsoever. If anything, the opposite would be taking place. The land will most likely end up in the hands of wealthier residents, not poorer ones on which the program was intended to serve. This is purely speculation by Newsmax, presupposing there to be a conspiracy, and even then, they've removed the most important context of all, the actual economic system in which all of this is occurring, capitalism, the one that they probably think can do no wrong. Claim: a black fence was placed around the Hania so that people couldn't see into the affected areas. In actuality, it was a 30,000 linear foot dust fence, and the website specifically says the dust screens will be maintained by the HDOT, the Hawaii Department of Transportation crews, and will remain up until further notice. It should be noted that at least 2 of the photos of the fence being, quote, secretly being put up are right from the Hawaii Department of Transportation's website. Claim: the FAA banned all drones from flying over the affected area. True. That's because the FAA says the drones are a nuisance in emergency situations, say like where you're trying to send emergency vehicles to search for people and to survey the area. Specifically, they said fire response agencies often ground their aircraft to avoid the potential mid-air collision. In other words, dozens of civilian idiots flying drones to take pictures of videos of the disaster site will interfere with operations. Same reason why you must remain outside of a construction site and why it's illegal to fly drones into a fucking airport. Claim: since 2011, there have been plans to make Maui the first smart city to be run on 100% renewable energy. False. There's never been any plan to build such a city. This comes from a misunderstanding of a tech conference that took place in January, the Hawaii International Conference on System Sciences, quote, about how government across the state can better adapt emerging technologies. It also takes place on another Hawaiian island, not Maui. Claim: people are being evicted from their homes around the affected areas. True. Landlords are mass evicting people from their rented property for various reasons, many claiming they need to house their own extended families due to homes destroyed by fire. Others are just making excuses to evict so that landlords can raise their rents due to a shortage of homes in the area. This is not a conspiracy, it's just capitalism. In the description below is a link to the video that I'm actually responding to. Believe it or not, the system is not a conspiracy. It's actually just a really bad system. Capitalism is inherently corrupt based on its just based on the fact of trying to keep greed as somehow of a great motivating force to have everything provided for in society. It's not a conspiracy. It's just capitalism doing literally what capitalism does, but you don't like to admit it because you like to think it's some kind of infallible system that is extreme ultimate freedom. So rather than having a tiny, tiny bit of honesty and critical thinking about what you think is absolutely infallible, which is actually a horrendous monster, you would rather invent some kind of great grand conspiracy to justify pandering to a system that is nothing more than utter evil.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.